Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. Today part 1 of my Dub Techno 5 Ableton template explanation. Basically this track has been made live during my live stream session. Every 2 Monday you can watch me create track from scratch. If you wanna check the live stream, they're still available on the channel. And this week we're gonna go over each track, the purpose of each track, how it's been made, the sound design, the MIDI, etc. And next week we'll focus more on the arrangement, mixing and mastering. Alright, so let's jump into Ableton. So it's a Dub Techno track, so it's always very evolving, the chords, but to give you an idea of the track, I'm gonna play this part here. Alright, so that'll give you an idea of the track, and we start with the kick drum, which is a classic 4-to-floor kick drum. So I really like the body of the kick, and I liked the clickiness as well, the click, but I found out afterward was maybe a bit too clicky to my taste, so that's why we have that much EQ. But first I had this kick punch rack. This is a rack I've made. All the rack I mentioned, I will put it in the description. There is always a video where I explain how the rack works, but I'm just going to explain you quickly. It's just some parallel processing where you have your dry signal, but you also have like a reverb on it. So it just add a bit of reverb on your kick, give a bit of room feeling to it, just to avoid to be a bit too dry. And then we have some EQing. So these are not like kind of mixing EQing. You can see it's like some weird EQing. I like sometimes to play a little bit with EQ to really change the tone. And then it's I wanted to kind of muffle the kick, and still I was finding that it was still too clicky, so I on the end even reduced it more. I feel also with the bass line, it's glue better without hearing this transient too much. Having transients, it's good sometimes to help the kick cut through the mix and everything, but sometimes as well it's good to have a bit more muffle. Let's say it's always depend of your track. Alright, then we have some hats and percussion. So these are usually pretty minimalist in Dub Techno. This is just too simple. I layer, you have this close hi-hat and this open. And they're both going into reverb. I have reverb in this rack. Again, I made a video about this rack. It's a rack with some reverb and delay that no work well with hats. But there is nothing much. It's not processing. It's nothing else. Just obviously, I use the big reverb. You can hear some big space. It's usually work well with ambient music and Dub Techno. The pattern is pretty easy. You have one playing on the beat. So every time the kick is playing, and one playing offbeat. The one playing offbeat have a stronger velocity, so it's kind of as an accent. It gives this impression because you go from something low velocity to high velocity, and that's what create this kind of feeling. And then at the end of 2 bar, it's kind of a repeat here. And here at the other 2 bar, you have another variation. So it's played like this the whole track. Just at the intro, I just have like a more simple pattern. Just offbeat. Then Perc is not really the Perc, it's more like a kind of shaker, kind of. Yeah, shaker and Kaxixi, I don't know how to pronounce that. Again, the pattern, you have this one, which is kind of similar. You see where you have a velocity a little on the beat, which is a little bit lower than the one offbeat. And then the Kaxixi 2 is a bit different pattern. So you have the one on the beat, which is low velocity, then offbeat, a higher velocity, but then the next one on the beat is a higher velocity, and then it go back to lower velocity offbeat, and then the pattern repeat. And it's just creating this interesting effect. And yeah, together. So you can hear I had again a lot of reverb here. And then you have the clap, almost like a. Usually it's a longer sample, but I just shorten it to really have just kind of the attack. Again, a huge reverb, and here I just reduce a little bit the high end because I found it again a bit too much transient. And so this, the pattern, again, is playing every 2 beat. But then you can see that here you have another extra just to get this rolling effect. So let's go into the bass. So you have 2 layers. You have one more which is subby. And again, it's gonna be 1 note on the beat, 1 note off beat. The one off beat a little bit longer, so that's what's gonna give a bit of groove. It's important as well to don't have the note tight. You see, to leave a little bit of space there. It adds more groove. Nothing crazy, I just use operator with the sine wave. You can see like there is nothing else. And then yeah, a bit of reverb. Again, the reverb helps put it into a wider space. Sometimes I found the bass, when it's too mono, it's kind of sound weird. I like to have it a little bit on the side as well. A bit of sidechain for getting the pumping effect with the bass. Here I make sure everything under 120 Hz is in mono. And then here I really EQ to get really exactly what I need. So here I do a low cut, but I accentuate as well with the Q, so it's accentuate the bass. And then the big low pass to get rid of kind of the reverb. Now this works well, but it works well for the kind of the subby part. So you need some kind of bass which are more in like in the mid high, and that's where come bass high. This is exactly the same pattern. And so the idea of this bass is, like I said, having more in the mid-high, so you want to have a signal which is pretty rich. So here I use this wavetable called Verb from the Complex Bank. And yeah, the idea is to kind of make it rich, adding a bit of reverb, same time for the bass to make it less dry and give more stereo. And then we're gonna use the low pass and EQ as well to kind of shape it more, that it doesn't overlap other elements, that it fits well as well with the bass, you know. So yeah, we're gonna do that. Amp. This add a bit of movement, add a bit of character as well. I have the drive input from the echo. It's kind of a dub delay as well, because it's filtered. Convolution reverb to put in a certain space. Reverb to put in even a bigger space. So now you might wonder why I use delay, reverb, one after another. To be fair, I like to experiment during my live stream, so I will try something. If I like, I leave it and I go until the next things. But for example, here I could maybe remove this hybrid reverb. But I always feel there is a subtle difference, but I always feel like this subtle difference matters, so I always leave all that. Then some sidechain. When you use the low pass, you really get just the kind of bassy vibe. Make sure everything under 120 is in mono. So yeah, here the pattern, I change it afterward because it's supposed this one to go like 5 semitone upper, like after 2 bars I think. But I changed it because I was finding that it was kind of making it more redundant than having the same monotonous bass pattern. It's kind of weird what I'm saying, like adding the variation will make it more boring. No, it's gonna make it more boring, but it's making it easier to get bored of it. Rather than the one monotonous one single note, it just works well because it's almost like you don't really pay attention to it because it's always the same things. Now we go into our chord, so that will be our main element. So I have the chord 1 long. I'm gonna start with the chord 2 because I'm gonna explain to you later why. Mainly because that's the chord 2, that's the one I started the main idea. That's how came the main idea. I'm gonna deactivate the return because it's also important. So you can see the pattern is pretty easy. It's playing on each beat, and then on the 4th beat it's playing like double. So pretty simple. Now you can hear it's a rich chord, so how I could get that with just one single note, then I use Ableton chord. So we're gonna deactivate all of the elements to start from the beginning, and we're gonna remove this chord as well. So this is our default sound. We use chord, basically it's gonna play, so your root note, and then it's gonna play as well +3 semitone, and it's gonna also trigger +7 semitone, which is minor chord. Now one thing that works well with chords and stab, it's kind of 2 layers. So instead of playing just one chord, you can play the same chord but an octave down or an octave upper. You then get obviously a richer sound, and that's what I've done here with this other device. And that's what I've done here with this other chord device. It's now gonna play so at my normal pitch, but also it's gonna play another extra minor chord -12 semitone. So it's add a bit more body because it's add some low or not. You have some automation here. It's basically easy. It's just going 5 semitone upper every 2 bar. So every 2 bar is normal, and then it go 5 semitone upper. Now, why I didn't transpose this MIDI pattern instead of using with Chord? I tried it actually, but it was sounding better using this plus 5 semitone. Alright, for the base of the sound, like usually a Dub Techno Chord, the most easiest way is to take a rich signal. Usually you will use sawtooth, and then you filter them like almost with a bandpass filter. So you cut a lot of the low, some of the high, you use the resonance of your filters to add character, a bit of drive, and then the trick is to modulate these filters and then to add some filter delay and some reverb, and that's what creates this dubby filtered vibe. So here I have the sawtooth on oscillator 1, another kind of weird sawtooth on oscillator 2, detune an octave down, and then that goes into the filter. So you have the 12 dB filter here with a bit of resonance. I have a high pass filter as well, but you can hear how the high pass filter help give the tone. One of the things as well you have to do, it's usually your filter, your low pass filter, you bring it down and you modulate it with an envelope. You get a fast opening of your filter, and that's create a nice movement that is very pleasant to your ears. If I remove, you see you don't get this sharpness and aggressivity. And yeah, so that's why you modulate your filter with envelope 2, and you have a very short attack, no sustain, and very short decay and release. So you have this fast opening envelope. And usually the amp envelope, I always put the sustain to the maximum. Not always, but if you want like a more blasting in the face chord, you need to have your sustain up. So this way you get your volume up straight in your face. Just a bit of attack to avoid the clickiness of the transient. And then a longer release, but because of the envelope working, it doesn't really matter here. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I use the poly mod, and I add a bit of drift, which is gonna kind of add a bit of this analog vibe. Alright, now we have this. We have this low pass filter, but you remember I talk about this band pass or kind of moving filter, high pass, low pass filter to add the character, and I talk about drive. Here what I've done is I use overdrive with LFO. And basically the thing with this overdrive device is that you can basically filter the distortion. And here's what I'm doing the distortion, but I'm making move the filter. So basically you always have a changing distortions. Like for example, when you not play, it will never be at the same filter position on your overdrive. Especially that the rate is not synced to the BPM, so it will never be at the same position. And now that you have your chord filtered, you put it into a dub delay. And what makes a dub delay is usually you have your delay which is filtered, and I use a bit of resonance as well on the filter. You can see here and here. So yeah, filtering your delay help to get this dubby effect. Then it's in ping pong, and I had the reverb as well. See, if I remove the filter, it works, but you don't get this dubby. And then we add a bit of reverb, put it in a bigger space. So then I use vinyl distortion, add this nice grit, this noisiness as well. Just boosting all the high. Drum bus is to kind of glue everything. You dry signal, send, the delay, the reverb, everything is a bit more glue with the compressor. The crunch will add some mid-high frequency. We could make it a bit more brighter and nice. And then it's some sidechain. And then you have this low pass filter, which is just mainly used for transition. I would just use like to introduce the sound or to, otherwise most of the time it's fully open. It doesn't work. It's just really like as a fade in, fade out. And yeah, that's our chord. So once I had that, obviously you have a lot of modulation of the filter. But I felt, you know what, I felt it was still missing something, and that's where I decided to add to return. So this is something you often do in dub music. It's like sending your track to a return with a lot of delay or whatever. And that's what I've done here. You can see the chord is going to this return with pitch, which is where you have some reverse pitched delay. So this is a rack I made. I'll put the link in the description if you want to find out more. But it's basically a rack with 3 different delay, which are all layered, and each delay have a different pitch that you can set here. You can decide as well the signal to be reverse, and you can adjust the amount of delay you want. And yeah, it's just creating this reverse pitched delay. So this is going there, and it's playing a little bit more on the left. And then you have the return B, which is a dub delay as well, but it's pan more a little bit on the right. And one of the reasons I had this delay is because I felt like the chord was missing a bit of stereo, a bit of movement as well. And this was a great way to solve these two problems. And yeah, then you have this chord 2 stereo, which is basically exactly the same than this one, which is just a bit more stereo. You can see it's exactly the same chain effect, but with this EQ, which is trying to enhance the stereo. And you can hear there is some glitchy stuff coming on top of the chord. The chord are kind of getting crazy sometimes, and it's because I have this 2-bit repeat rack that I made. I will put the link in the description if you want to find out more. It's just gonna make a big repeat effect, so like cut a... See that rattle kind of effect, and you have 2 because you have 2 different speeds. This one is faster than this one, and yeah, that's gonna add a bit of variation to the chord as well. I will talk a bit more about how to add modulation, variation, like having the same chord but playing the whole track without being too boring. I will talk about this more next week, but you already have like a few hints how I did it with the return. You have some filter modulation, you have the LFO modulating the filter of the overdrive. All right, and I start with chord 2 because basically chord 1 actually is again the same chain preset. I just duplicated, I kind of recycling. I like to do that in my track. For example, like I will reuse the same, I will duplicate the track, and from that I will tweak it to find a new thing. Here was just to add a bit of movement to the chord, but you can see it's the same effect chain. The only thing is like the attack is way longer. Instead of having something very percussive, you have something a bit more smooth. So in terms of MIDI pattern, so I changed the color of the clip. So like this, I have the chord 2 and chord 1 together here. So you can see the chord 2, the one percussive, it's playing on each beat like we saw. But this one, it's playing in between. You see, just the note is longer, but you can see it's playing here in between chords, playing here. You have the chord 2 playing here and here and here and here and here, and the chord 1 is playing right in between all the time. So if I re-put both together, you can see how it does. So they kind of answer each other. And yeah, same pattern but with a longer attack. So once I had that, obviously I needed a little bit of change at one point, so that's why came chords 3 and 4. I just needed to find something a little bit different, because I felt at one point I needed to take a break from always having the same chord, and you can see here, that's what I create chord 3. So again, here you have a G minor. Here I didn't use the chord, but and I used this preset from Tension. Let's see how it sounds without the effect. The idea is to have the same kind of vibe but a different tone, and then it's again distortion. So with amp, a bit of pedal to make it even dirtier, and then again you filter it, because when you filter and you use resonance, that's what's gonna add the character. Again, drive, filter. Here I put the drive before the filter. You can do it after, it doesn't matter to you. Just a bit of panning on the left side, and then the dub delay. Again, you see filter delay, big reverb, and here I'm playing with the return as well. I send from time to time just to add a bit of variation. Yeah, this is kind of as well to answer to the other send that we're gonna talk now. Chord 4, which is more like the more important of this part. So again, it's a G, and here in this rack, actually it's a dub rack I've made where you have like a chord selector, and you can see it's like the 1, and it's again a minor chord playing. But yeah, if you want to find out more about this rack, I put the link in the description. It's called Dub Chord Scent. It's a rack I made which especially to create quick dub techno chord. And yeah, I modulate the filter to have different variation along the track. And I use another rack of mine, which is called Dub Chord, which is creating this dub delay effect. Again, I will put the link in the description. One part which is just a reverb, and the part which is like the delay plus the reverb, so you have like a dub effect straight up. You can see it's a filter delay. Echo, it's a very good device to create this kind of delay, dub delay. Then Autopan just gonna add a bit of movement around your head, and then here just a EQ like as well to tame a little bit the transient and the aggressiveness of the chord. So yeah, this 2 cent was really like created to take a break from the main chord dub from the track. And yeah, now let's move into the pad. This is something I created pretty much at the beginning, if I remember well. I like to start with the drum, and then usually I add the pad because it's kind of a help to set the mood of the track. So even if on the end you don't really hear it that much, it kind of helps glue everything and build things one into another that work well. So here the pattern is just one single note again playing the whole track, and I again use chords to make it first a minor, and then I use another one to have it playing at an octave down and 2 octave upper. So basically now you have a minor chord at G0, but you also have it at G-1 and G2. So you have basically 3 minor chords playing simultaneously, so you have 9 notes, which can make you sound more richer. Again, I use drift because drift is really perfect for this kind of pad analog type of sound. With the Perc and the sawtooth an octave upper. But yeah, here what is great is to use the stereo mode because you can spread the voice, so it's making super stereo. Drift gonna add a bit of detune and everything. You have as well a bit of detune with oscillator 2 here, but nothing crazy. Everything is going through a low pass filter, and then envelope classic, nothing crazy about. It's just like nothing special to say about. It's more about the processing. So I've made this rack. I don't know if I shared this one, but it's gonna be... Yeah, no, I think I haven't shared it. I need to make a video. It's a kind of a filter delay, but with a lot of modulation of the delay time. Kind of creating this dub vibe as well. And then everything goes into a lot of reverb. You see a big dry rate amount, long GK, very big space. So yeah, usually very useful at the beginning because it helps when you don't have that many elements. It kind of helps glue everything. Then I have this other ambience, so I wanted a more organic kind of style of ambience, and I actually found out something pretty crazy. I'm gonna show you. So this is just like an airport ambience from 9 Sound. It's a website where you can get free sample. I will put it in the description. And you have this kind of ambience. So this is airport ambience. But this obviously when you put it like lower in the background, it works well. So I just EQ, like remove the rumble, like kind of unnecessary. And I have this filter sweep rack. Again, I put it in the description. Kind of a filter bank. So you take the signal and you split it into different parallel processing. And each parallel processing is bandpass. And the bandpass is moving. So it add a lot of movement. Kind of a sweeping filter. It's really nice. I put it in the description. Almost creating this flangery effect. And then into a lot of delay and reverb. Now the thing which is I like actually is because you can hear there is this little kids which is shouting, and it's actually fitting really well the track you're gonna hear. And I don't know, I just like it. It's a very nice ambience, organic stuff in the background. And because it's an ambience, it's very noisy as well, so it adds a bit of noise. And then finally I have this one, I call it Mermaid. This is because someone say when I was creating the track, it's sounding like a mermaid. But this is the original sample, so it's kind of a, yeah, I don't know where it's from the original It's like a dark rumbling laundry machine. That's how it's called. Again, it's 99 sound. It's the same sample pack. It's free. My first idea was to have a noisy ambience. On the end, you can hear in the original sample, there is this rumbling who actually got a note. And then I pitched this note to the track. And actually, it's kind of, it's going to be a noisy ambience, but it's going to be as well this steady note, kind of drone playing the whole track. First, I had to pitch. So this one is just to pitch, I think, to G. And then what I do it here is I have a shifter with 12 semitones, so an octave upper, but it's at 50%. So I keep 50% of the dry signal at the normal pitch. And then I get 50% at an octave upper. And then I do again the same. But this one, I decided to modulate it with LFO. To add a bit of more movement. You see? So you don't hear the high pitch it, and then you're gonna hear it again. Then a bit of drive, a little bit, a bit of reverb. Keep in mind the idea was to create something noisy originally, so. And then I filter everything I don't need, you know, obviously I don't need. And I had a LFO on these high frequencies, just gonna add a sweeping noise effect. So you see the ambience are always like kind of a subtle touch, but altogether it's very important if you don't have them. And yeah, all my mix going into a mix down. This is just because the way I work, I like to go first to a mix down before to go to the master. You have the return, I explained them, and then you have the master. And yeah, we are pretty much done in terms of sound design and composition. So yeah, hope you like this video, hope you learn a few tricks here and there. If you want to support me, you can grab the template, link in the description. It's a great way to support me. And see you next week for the arrangement, mixing, mastering part, where I will go a bit more about this in detail. See you, bye bye.